Okay, welcome to video 16.1, Drawing People, and you should have this worksheet, worksheet part 1, and I've drawn this, so this isn't on yours, but this is what you should have, and we're going to do a pretty easy lesson today. This is in 2 parts, so this is part 1, and what you're going to do is you're going to take a sheet of paper like this, and you're going to fold it this way and then fold it this way again to where you have 4 areas, okay, 4 equal sizes, and then we're going to cut them apart. So let's do that real quick. Okay, I have my 4 pieces. Now you're also going to need an eraser and a pencil, okay? So set this to the side, and we're going to make this really easy for you. But first, let's examine the figure here, and we're going to make a few labels, okay? Let's look at this one first that's facing us. Right here, we're going to put halfway. This is the halfway mark. That means there's 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces above it, and 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces below it. So when you have a person and you're drawing them, halfway should be right here under their pelvis, okay? So that's a very, very important thing to note. Also, let's look at the parts that we have here. Okay, some of the most important parts for this person is the head, the shoulders, this is the chest plate, that's what we're going to call it, and this is the pelvis, okay? And those are the main things that's going to make your person look either like a boy or like a girl. So you need to remember these 4 things here. That's the most important part of drawing your person. And also that right under the pelvis is halfway. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay this over our person, and we're going to trace our lines in some of the major areas that we have on them. So take a moment to do that real quick. Okay, so I have traced all of my horizontal lines here, and I have traced also the major part that I need for my person. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start examining this base piece here. Now, let's look at how wide the head is, and then we're going to come out a little bit more, about half of that. So we have the full length here, and then half of that length and half of that length. And look where it stops. It stops on the shoulder areas. Now this is a good size for like a young man, like a teenager maybe, or a man that's kind of small built, or a woman. Because what's going to change with this is it's going to go out a full length for a full-grown man or a man that's built pretty big. So in a full-grown man, it's going to come out to here. So their shoulders would be wider. It's going to come out the full width of their face. But you have to make sure you don't make the face too big. The face should be about even with this. So you have to kind of keep your face in proportion with your chest plate. And that's going to help keep your whole person in proportion. Also, you have to make sure you have some space here. When you draw this, you notice this is halfway between this, okay? So this is about halfway. You have to have some space between the neck and the body here. I always have to have some space. Okay, so I went ahead and erased these because we're not going to mess with those right now. So it's about halfway up here and halfway in this one is about where your chest plate. Mine's a little bit low, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. So let's finish drawing the rest of this. So we have their hips here that sits on either side, and let's do their arms real quick. So you have their 2 shoulder sockets here. It's going to go down to that next line and then down to this line. And they can be in any direction you want. You just have to make sure that when you do this, here's this length. Let's go out about that far here. Their rotation area is going to be like this, and it's going to go straight up to the top of their head. So if you draw their arm, you can draw it in any of these places, and that will be fine. And then you have to attach another piece that's not quite as long. You notice this one takes up 1.5, and this one just takes up 1. So let's go ahead and draw this radius on your person over here. there's your radius, so you can remember which direction. So every time it moves out, you don't go back to this line. It has to start moving off of the line here. Notice that. So it'll be here, 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 places like that. So if you want to move your arm later, you can do that, because that's what we're going to start adjusting. Let's go ahead and talk about the legs a little bit. Oh, we can put the hands on here. Thumb, and then the other hand, thumb. Okay, so let's do the legs. If you want to, you can trace the legs on here just like they are. I'm going to go ahead and just put mine, and they're kind of straight in a row almost. And then here's the ankles, okay? And then we just connect them. Now it's important how you connect these. Okay, we're going to start in the middle, and we're going to go to the inside, and then we're going to go outside and inside again. So they both go to the inside. So this is your first person, and you did it on one of your little sheets of paper. And we're going to do the same thing now, because we're just sticking with stick figures for part 1. Now we're going to do the same thing with the sideways figure, okay? I'm going to do one of both of these with you, and then we're going to discuss them. So let's lay this over here. Now, if you need to draw for the sideways figure, if you notice, there's a line that goes through the middle. And this is a very important line, and you need it. So if you need to draw this line darker on your paper here so you can see it, you can do that. And you can also, if you notice, I also did the rotation area for the arm as well right here. So you can do that too. So go ahead and lay this over here, and we'll trace this out real quick. Okay, I've drawn my major parts. Remember, your head, shoulders, chest plate, pelvis, head, and the shoulders. Now you can't see them, so all they are is the line right here. Also, this line right here, which represents the backbone on the forward facing one, side facing one, it's different. So what we're going to do, let's go ahead and draw that, and it's going to curve out a little bit right here. We're not going to put it in the middle, because your neck bone is not in the middle. If you feel the back of your neck, it's on the very back of your neck. So it's going to come down, and it's going to come in pretty close to this line, okay? And then it's going to come out again over here. And this is their back area. Then you would start do the arms and the legs. Now, if you want to, you can put the arms in a different spot here. You don't have to. So you can see your body better. You can make them come out just to get out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and put all the dots, just like we did over here, for our arms and legs. So let's do that real quick. Okay, so I drew my arm up here, and it's kind of out of the way. And it's like they're holding something up here. And I also have all of my dots. Now you notice on this one, it's a little different. Okay, they're not like in a row. This one is in front of the line. This one is almost on the line. And this one is right behind the line. So they kind of go in a diagonal pattern like that. So when you make these for a sideways person, remember where they go. Now also, how did I know how long to make this arm? Well, it's a little bit shorter than this one, so I just figured if I folded it up, it's going to be about right here. Here's that, the rotation area for this. You can always make rotation areas for things, and this would be exactly where it would go. So I have all this. Now let's connect. I already connected my arm here. Let's connect the legs. So we're just going to go to the middle and to the front. That's the knee. And now to starting the back of this, and we'll go down to the middle of the bottom one. Now another important thing to notice here, and I want you to make this line, is that if you took their chest area, started up here, it's going to hit their pelvis area, and it's going to come down to the front of their feet. This helps maintain some balance. Okay, see, it's also at the front of the face. If we draw a line on the back here, and it's going to hit the back of the foot. Now, of course, everybody's is a little different. When we start to add on the body, things change. Like a tree grows balanced, this body's going to have a little balance to it. And so you can make sure when you draw yours that your shapes, see how mine, this one doesn't stick out further than this one, okay? My shapes are about even. And then from here down, I'm gonna go to here, and then that's about even with my foot as well. And my head is okay, all right? So this is the front main line that you're gonna look at. Now remember, as we start adding body mass to things later, that can change, but the skeletal structure has to be like this. You can add things later, but you always need to have a balanced skeletal structure. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to play around with these some. You can change the size of the basic things here, and you can change the direction. So I'm going to change this size up a little bit real quick and talk about it. Okay, I changed the size of this. I made this a little bit smaller, and I made the pelvic area a little bit bigger. So this is going to be a female, and her hips are going to be a little bit wider, and she's going to be kind of small up here. So she's kind of petite, but she has some wider hips. Now let me do it a little bit differently and see what we get from that. Okay, now we've made the pelvic area smaller, and this is still small. So this is a very petite female. She's not going to have very large hips, and she's just going to be built really small. And that's how you make a smaller one. Now let's make a couple of men with these. Okay, now if you notice, I have widened the shoulders, okay? So now it's another full face length out. So that's the first thing I'm going to change if I'm going to draw a guy. And the second thing I'm going to do is make sure when I draw this, it's a good decent size. It should be at least or bigger than his head, okay, as far as the space it takes up. And also I made this to where it did not go past. I don't want it to go past the chest area, because when I'm drawing my guy in a minute, I want this to angle in like this, okay, when I put the skin on him. I don't want it to come out, because that's going to make him look more like a female figure. So I want this to be smaller for the guys, bigger. And on females, this is usually smaller and this is bigger. So it's the opposite. So let's do a few more changes. Okay, here's a change that shows that they're waving. So I moved the arm up, keeping in mind the rotation area that I can draw this in. Okay, here's another position, and I rotated. You see how I drew this? I sketched this out, and I rotated his legs some, and then I drew the other piece, which is going to be the same length as this one, and I put his foot out here. So here's another way you can do things. So mess with this and just play around with it. Make different size, the four main things of the body, make them different sizes, play around with the shapes, play around with positions. And you can do a lot of these and just do them on this paper and glue them in your sketchbook, or you can draw in your sketchbook. And if you do that, I would take a sheet of one of these pieces of paper and trace the basic body on here. So you can just lay it under your sketchbook page and draw it and make modifications from it, okay? Also, we're going to do the same thing with this one. So let's make a few modifications real quick here. We'll talk about that. Okay, so here I made my ovals a bit bigger, okay? And here too, I made it a bit bigger, so it's going to make my person have a little bit more mass to them. So this looks more like a male, but you notice I still kept the front of this even together, okay? If somebody's going to be, a little overweight or have a little bit more body mass to them, we would add this here later. See, here's the stomach area coming out. We would do that after we did all the skeletal part that we're doing now. This has to stay even, and you add the other stuff later. So let me make a few more modifications and see what we can get. Okay, here I did the rotation area to make sure I can get it, pretty close to the right area. And I put his leg up here, and this should be the same size as this. Remember, it takes up 2 spaces, then 2 spaces. And then I can put his other leg here like he's, kind of getting ready for a run. He's kind of stretching a little bit. Let me do another one. Okay, here's another one. And all I did was take this, and I did the rotation here, see where it would end up. And he's kneeling now. And I did the same thing. I left it up here. But I brought his other leg, made it the same size, remember they're equal, and I put his foot down here. And so you can do this as well. Now let me change up his body here. Let me make it more female again. Okay, now just that little bit of reduction in size here makes it look a lot more female. And you see how it's getting closer to this middle line? So that lets me know this is a more petite figure. Okay, and usually more petite figures are female. Now you don't have to worry about doing the body on any of these. We're just going to leave them like this for now for part 1. And do as many of these as you want. Like I said, you can get a piece of paper and draw this, or just stick this under your sketchbook, and you can use this to start it and make as many as you want. Okay, and we'll talk about filling it in later, so just remember your points. If you're not going to use this and you want to kind of get away from doing the lines and stuff and copying, you can draw your person, and remember this is the halfway mark. So the head to the feet should be equal starting here under the pelvis, and you can practice some of that. And this is, of course, half of this, and this is half of the bottom part. Okay, so this is going to cut the chest plate in half, and then this part that cuts the bottom part in half is going to be where the knees go. So you can use all these to gauge your person if you want to try to do some free drawing without tracing all this stuff. So whatever's most comfortable for you, do that. Fix this up, have fun with it, and I'll see you for the video part 2. So remember, do not draw the bodies on them. We're just doing the framework right now. Part 2 is for doing some of the body parts, the full body over it. I'll see you then.